Hey guys, welcome back to Star Wars Timeline. My name is Ben, and I'm continuing to review the Droids show. I missed my last week, where I usually post these videos on Friday, because I started binge watching The Expanse show. I cannot stop watching it. So I really want to finish the Droids. I'll probably review and record 2 videos today, so you guys could watch my episode 11 and 12 review, because I need to wrap it up. You know, December is fast approaching. Obviously, we have the Book of Boba Fett, and I cannot miss that show. Anyway, let's get right into it. And as always, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel, hit that bell button, all that YouTube jazz that you guys know. It would really help me out and it would really mean a lot. Anyway, episode 11 is called The Roon Games. And we're seeing the previous master of R2-D2 and C-3PO, this new hero called Mungo, and now he is being pursued by the same villains from the previous episode as well, by the Governor Kung. And they're actually traveling finally to the planet where they were searching for the runestones. And as they go into the atmosphere, they're being attacked by these drone fighters. And immediately right away, of course, we are reminded of the Star Wars prequels, which came out obviously much later. But it was nice to see a little connection where we see the first drone pilots, right? These fighters that are controlled either by computers or by robots. We don't know. We're not sure. But this similarity, of course, is there. And I really enjoyed that. And as they crash land and they descend into the planet's atmosphere, we see that this fight is being observed by the locals on the ground. And they see the ship crash landing. And those are Auren and her father, which we meet later in the episodes. And they join our heroes, you know, for the rest of this episode. Aboard their ship, Admiral Screed and the Governor Kung, right, the 2 main villains from the previous episode, they're planning to win these games. This governor is explaining, look, I control this planet, and they have these games here. And if we win, we can secure control over this planet, and I will keep ruling, and I will deliver the stones to the Empire, which it really needs. So he still wants to vie for control and say, no, I have autonomy over this planet. It is mine. And of course, they're making their plans. In the meantime, Mango Baobab, right, our hero, who looks like, you know, this typical comic book cartoony hero that we see in your Saturday morning cartoons in the 80s and 90s, they try to exit their crash landed ship. They make like a little R2-D2 makes a little hole, C-3PO jumps out of the window, and immediately they're being attacked by these new creatures, the mud creatures, or the mudmen, as the girl calls them later in this episode. And later in this scene, we also get this giant, huge reptile who basically looks like a dinosaur, and they call it the Shamunar. What I really enjoyed in this particular scene, first of all, I thought the Mudmen were pretty fun to look at. Obviously, you know, if you read a lot of sci-fi, if you watch fantasy shows and stuff like this, it may not look all that new to us adults who experience a lot of content like that. But imagine yourself being a 5 or 6-year-old kid who's watching this show for the first time, either in the 80s, or if you show it to your kid today on Disney+. It's going to look pretty fun and exciting. And this is how I'm watching the show, obviously. It's not adult-oriented at all. So from a kid's perspective, those Mudmen were a lot of fun. And what kids are not absolutely crazy about dinosaurs, right? You show any kid a dinosaur, you take them to a museum, they're obviously going to be very excited. So that was really cool. And I thought that Auren and her father, Neil, Yom, they both were very interesting to look at in terms of character designs. I really enjoy Auren. I love that they accentuate your, you know, female beauty and her form. And she's very distinct looking with her, like the white, you know, this uniform that she has and like a little bandana over her head. And her father as well looks quite unique and interesting. I want to say they are human. The father looked a little bit had like his facial features were kind of showing us that the natives of this planet. They look quite different from Mungo, and the complexion as well. And I really enjoyed that too. They stand out visually. And of course, Auren, she comes in riding this new creature, which kind of looks like this planet's version of Tauntaun. And her father, Neil, arrives on this hover car, which I also, once again, love. I can't stress enough how in the show, all the technology, all the facilities and architecture that they show looks really striking and beautiful. I would say this is my favorite part about this show. And the funniest moment in this episode was when Auren tries to fight these mudmen. She runs quickly to R2D2. She completely misses C3PO, and she goes like, "Hey, by the way, do you have a water pump?" And obviously, why not? R2D2 produces a water pump. It's like it's completely ridiculous, right? It doesn't seem to have any sense because for each episode, whatever the situation requires, for some magical reason, R2D2 has a particular extension or a gadget. Once again, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be rational. Guys, this is pure escapism. This is fantasy. It's not sci-fi. It's not meant to be taken serious. And no need to say this is actually for kids. So anyway, I thought it was just funny. She's like, "Hey, do you have a water pump?" She gets the water pump. And how do you fight mud? You try to wash it out, of course. So it was a little funny and cool. Next, what happens in this episode is we are now taken to the Coliseum, right? Where this Drainsweeper Race is going to take place. And obviously, once again, we're returning to the Star Wars prequels, to the Phantom Menace pod race. With a twist. It once again reminds us George Lucas's love for sports cars and racing and stuff like this. That's why in the show, in Star Wars prequels, you always have some kind of like race or a game or something similar of that sort. But the twist here is quite interesting. I liked it, where they have this circuit that they got to go around, and whatever driver is, unseated from his creature, they go to the center of this thing and they're being drained into this hole. And obviously, there's some gravity there to support them so the riders don't hurt themselves. Of course, the villains, right? This new droid, Bun Dingo, which I still can't figure out this name. It sounds really, really ridiculous and weird. But anyway, this cool-looking droid, he goes in and he sabotages all the riders one by one. And R2D2 is the one who stayed behind in the tent, and he basically encounters this droid, and then he tries to go and warn the friends. Right away, my initial instinct was like, "Hey man, if I'm watching this when I'm 5 or 6 years old, that robot, that droid is super cool." I can't imagine, you guys, like anyone who watched this show as a kid, please write somewhere in the comments and let me know what you thought of this Bun Dingo droid. I thought he was absolutely cool looking. The first two things I thought of was Terminator, RoboCop. Those are the movies I grew up on as a kid. It's something that my parents didn't mind. It's like, "Oh, okay, it's just robots. Go see it." And he was really, really interesting. And I enjoyed the little intrigue that's going on there, right? In the beginning of the episode, we have some action, and now goes into the Coliseum, and we're about to have our games, which is going to be more action. But somewhere in between, there's a little bit of intrigue. And of course, the villains are plotting, the general and the admiral and the governor, they're still making plans. They want to defeat the good guys. Of course, they are going to these shady tactics, and they try to exploit every opportunity they can to secure victory. Next, what happens is Mungo, he's also being poisoned by Gaff's insectoid poison, and he's like out of commission. Nothing terrible happens to him, but he can't start off the ride. And who begins the ride? I thought it was going to be actually the girl, but no. It starts with C3PO, and he's the one to begin the race. Obviously, it's pretty silly, but it's nice to see that our droids are always the focus point of this show. There's never an episode where human heroes kind of like take the spotlight and R2D2 and C3PO are just relegated to be like, you're just over here on the side. Kind of like they were in some of the Star Wars movies, like, the droids are just there, especially the sequels. But here, C3PO, he's the first one to take this ride, and we understand that it's not just going to be one rider, right? It's going to be several circles they got to complete and pass on the baton to the next rider. Mungo takes over, so he's back in action, of course. He's our hero from the previous episode. He's got to show what he's capable here. And Auren is the one that finishes the race, and I really like that because it's her planet. She knows these games better than the other heroes, the droids or Mungo, right? And it makes sense that she's the one showing them like, hey, I'm going to finish this off. I'm going to get us the victory. I really like that they place that particular credit. It goes to her as the native of this planet. Now we're back to Admiral Screed, who is very displeased. He said, "You failed me once again, Governor. This is not what the Empire is looking for. I'm done making deals with you. You better deliver the runestones." I also like that little moment because it's somewhat, a little bit more for adults. It's a little bit more for fans of the actual movie, where it shows where the Empire's extent, how far it goes, and what they're capable of doing, subjugating other planets. It's something that we've seen consistently throughout the show, and I like they're reinforcing that point here, that the Emperor will not take no for an answer. He will not take any kind of mishaps or mistakes. They need to get it done now. He's now starting to press the governor. The episode actually ends one of the scenes where, like, the governor is shaking his head like, oh my God, what am I going to do next? The Empire is, breathing down my neck. At the end of the episode, of course, the friends get all the medals, including the droids, right? Chewbacca didn't get his medal at the end of the A New Hope, but here they remedy the mistake. Both of the droids get the medals alongside their human counterparts. And Auren says kind of like, hey guys, we won, and now you're going to go back to your planet, right? And she kind of feels sad. So obviously there's sort of feelings or relationship that she begins to build with Mungo, which kind of makes sense. He's a handsome young man and she's also pretty. So it's nice to see that little moment there. And she says, look, I'm going to help you. And Mungo promises, no, as long as there are rune stones to find here, we're going to stay on this planet. All in all, guys, I really enjoyed this episode. It was very adventurous. I loved all the design. I loved all the drawings of the backgrounds, and the Coliseum was beautifully done. All the Mudman, the dinosaur slash, red monster creature was really, really beautiful. And the droid, man, I gotta say, visually, he was the highlight. He was just like so badass looking. If I'm imagining myself as a kid who grew up with a RoboCop, if I saw that robot when I was a kid, I would probably lose my mind and say, hey man, how come we didn't get robots like this have more important roles in the actual Star Wars movies? The bad guy droids, that do stuff like this, not just somebody who's like a Boba Fett, a human, bounty hunter. So all in all, really enjoyed this episode. What I'm going to do next is finish this video and go back and watch episode 12. This show turned out to be something entirely different from what I expected it to be. I thought it's going to be just completely, for kids and nothing to do with the movies at all. And I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm just going to muscle my way through it. I'm like, okay, guys, here's a review. I'm a YouTube channel. I'm trying to do a review of the show and not show any emotion on my face. I'm actually enjoying it. It's quite fun. Once again, it's for kids. It's not for adults. It's pretty silly. And one of the highlights in the entire show is R2-D2 popping out that like water pump. It just comes out of nowhere, completely ridiculous. And for somebody like me who can like understand this tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, it was quite fun. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm watching episode 12 right now. You stick around if you want to come back today. I'll post it a little bit later after this video. I hope you enjoyed this and will support my channel. I'll see you guys in a bit. Take care.